Welcome to another episode of Better with Paul. Today, my friends, we're going to get right in the middle of what I believe is one of the hottest debates, one of the hottest topics that is going on around the world. It's interesting. This is one of those times where, and I would say one of the few times ever, at least in my life, where there's one topic among professionals and entrepreneurs that everyone is debating all over the world. And we're going to get into that. But I want to say what's up to Juan Lee? What's going on? I want to say what's up to LaShonda. I want to say what's up to my man, Ricardo. I see you. My sis right here. Linda, I see you. Anna, I see you. Right. I see everybody. Tony and I were chatting back and forth right before this session on this exact topic. Like this is one of those where a lot of us are really talking about this topic. And so I want this to be an honest dialogue, an honest discussion. Let's get right into it. At least what the topic is. And then I'll talk about some other things on the front end. What's up, everybody? What's up? I see LinkedIn. By the way, LinkedIn, we've got some real LinkedIn royalty watching today. On the panel, by the way. We've got some real LinkedIn royalty on the panel. So this is going to be incredible. Make sure a couple of things, guys, before we get going. Make sure that you are sharing the video. We've talked a lot about this, how it is important to share on every platform. YouTube, right? You could share on YouTube. You can share on Periscope. You can share on LinkedIn, and then, of course, Facebook. So please make sure you're doing that. Also, make sure that you are on the newsletter. So tomorrow is when the newsletter goes out. If you've been on the newsletter, you should know that I've been recapping all of the sessions. I dropped a free ebook in there for everybody. This is basically resources outside of what we're talking about in these sessions to help you become better. So make sure that you are on the newsletter. Next up, quick announcement is, remember, 2021, we're going to Jamaica. Where's Jay? Where's Jay Hurt in the list? Where's Jay? Right? We're going to Jamaica. Make sure that you are on this wait list. Right now, the wait list is touching upon 300 people already, just waiting in the queue to hear the announcement about Jamaica. So make sure that you're doing that. And then last but not least, I want to make sure that I shout this out. I announced this to the list that was already in the queue this weekend. Already folks have signed up, which is great. Literally for the last 3 months, people have been asking, Paul, when are you going to do your mastermind? When are you going to do your mastermind? What are you going to do your mastermind? So I am here in London. There are 2 TV shows that I'm shooting here, and I just found out the schedule. Finally, we're going to go back to work, right? We're coming back, and I know what my schedule is. So now I know that I have a gap of about 6 weeks. And then in that gap, we're doing this mastermind. So make sure that you hit that link to join. And that's all I have to say before we get going. All right, guys, here we go. Ron Foster, I see you, Ron. Nadia, I see you. Marsha Ann Donaldson Brown, I see you. Okay, here's the topic today, all right? I almost did a disservice to you. And I want to out myself on this. I almost did a disservice to you. So yesterday, on Sundays, I try to kind of take Sunday off, try to detach from social media, even detach from the news, just spend time with the family. But I was also tired. As we've been talking about this I was just emotionally tired. So I was thinking about, okay, we need to do a Better with Paul today. What am I going to do? And I just lobbed in, and I apologize in advance. I just lobbed in a whatever topic. This was the first time out of 30 sessions where I was just like, whatever, right? And the topic that I picked was, let's just follow up from the one episode we were talking about podcasts and being a guest on a podcast, right? That was going to be the topic today. A matter of fact, some of you even saw that I posted that already as the placeholder for today. But then I woke up and then I started thinking about you all. Right? Started thinking about, we often talk about the avatar. Started thinking about my community. And I started thinking about the topic that I chose. Was it the right topic for you today? And I realized that it was not. So immediately I hit delete on that topic. And I immediately, just like that, I just picked up my phone and I messaged 4 people, right? 4 people, 4 different people. And I'm going to tell you what, by the grace of God, right? All 4 of them shot messages back and they were like, Paul, yep, it's last minute, but we're in. The topic today is the topic that I now feel good about bringing you. The topic today is about how do we, as professionals, right? Whether we're in the corporate world, how do we as entrepreneurs, right? How do we navigate this whole new world that we're in as we're trying to build our brands? Now let's talk about the new world real quick, right? Because we know we have COVID-19 that exists and people, hundreds of thousands of people are dying, right? As a result of this. This is a deadly virus that exists all over the world. But then as a result, you got the trickle effect. You've got the fact that we're now on lockdowns and we're now quarantining, and there are industries that have completely been dismantled as a result of this. There are jobs that will never come back as a result of this, right? So you have the COVID-19 effect. Like, how do you even just manage your personal brand in that atmosphere? Then on top of that, you have this digital, what I call digital everything, where now more people are showing up online, more people are posting content, more people are creating lives. Like if you look at the stock of every company that has an online platform like a Zoom or a Fiverr or whatever it may be, the stock is just through the roof. Why? Because investors, and we all now know that the new normal is to show up digitally. So that begs the question, how do you, as a professional, how do you manage your brand now that everyone is showing up digitally? And then add to the fact that we now have this new world that's now thinks they're woke. Like we got a world that, and I say, and let me emphasize, the world thinks they're woke, right? We're going to see exactly what happens, but the world thinks they're woke, right? And so you've got this whole anti-racism wave happening all over the world. And the question becomes now, as a professional, how do we manage all of this? Not just, and that's a professional of any ethnicity, of any nationality. How do we manage this? How do we show up online? What do we say? What do we not say, right? These are real topics. And that's the reason why I'm so excited to have this particular panel on with us. And yeah, my sister's like, this is truth. Yeah, this is truth. Yeah, Kimberly says, woke until we go back to work. Right. This is a real question, right? I really want to see this, right? So let's talk about it. Let's have an honest discussion about this topic, right? Honest discussion. I have 4 amazing panelists. Let's bring the panelists on one by one. I want to start with someone who is true. She's my sister. Like I consider her to be my little sis, right? She is in London, but it's interesting because I think I met her in the UK. Then she moved to Harlem, or she moved to New York, should I say. She was in New York for a while. I think it was Brooklyn, actually, that she really ended up in. We had my best friend, who I talk about a lot, Andre Smith, who passed away, was a really good friend of hers. We just built as just 2 people. I say good people know good people. She's good people. But on top of just our friendship, she's someone who is a PR professional, but also a brand strategist. And she works specifically with corporate executives, right? Women who are corporate executives. And she helps to, elevate their brand, right? Make them more visible. And I think for this day and age, right, this is someone who we all need to hear from, because I know that the number one demographic watching this is a woman who's in corporate America and now wants to know, like Kimberly just said, are we just woke? Are people just woke until we go back to work? Like, how do we navigate all this? What do we talk about? What do we not talk about, right? And then on top of it too, what I love about Marielle, right, who's coming up, is that she knows she understands the culture in the UK. She understands the culture in the Caribbean, and she understands the culture in the United States. So without further ado, my sis right here. Here she is.
Hello. Hi, Paul. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you. This is good. This is good.
Good. This is a good start.
Okay.
Thank you for that warm welcome.
Man, you got it. You got it. I tell you what, I like I said, when I thought about this topic, you're one of the first 4, right, that I thought about. So thank you for doing this. Let's get right down to it. Okay.
Yeah.
You've worked with a lot of women in corporate America, probably both in the UK and the United States.
Globally, yeah.
Globally, okay. To really increase their visibility, increase their voice, right?
Yes.
But what I find interesting about this time for a woman is that there's complete uncertainty that exists, right? You've got uncertainty because of what do I say? What do I not say? Because of, everybody's woke. You've got the fact that with COVID-19, so many women are having to be the full-time teacher for their children, and they can't go back to work because their children are not in school, right? I mean, there's so many issues, and I think that there's a lot of just unrest and uncertainty. So Marielle, help us out here.
Yes.
Give us some sunshine, right? What are two, three things, that we could be hopeful about, in particular, that women who want to build that professional brand could be thinking about now as we reside in this new world?
Yes. And I think, as you alluded to, it's not all doom and gloom. I do see this as a huge opportunity for everyone to really reflect on what they're doing. Firstly, really think about, is what you're doing right now how you want to be seen? So my first point would really to get clear on what you want to be known for. And I know it may seem really, really simple, but you have to think like, the world is changing very fast. There's so much uncertainty in the job market. So get crystal clear. Think about 3 adjectives that you want to be known for, and how are you really demonstrating in your job or in your business those 3 adjectives. So for instance, if you're an accountant, how can you show up as the best accountant that there is? What do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? Because that's where all of the big decisions are going to be happening in your job, when you're not in the room. So that's my first point. Get clear on what you want to be known for, and make sure that it's congruent with how you're showing up, even online and offline. Which leads me to my second point, which is about your online positioning. Everybody's online more so than ever. So how are you leveraging the likes of LinkedIn, Instagram, and is it aligned to your overall brand values? Because there's no point having a professional persona on LinkedIn, but on Instagram you've got twerking videos or whatever. So again, it links back to, what are those brand values? What are the 3 things that you want to be known for? And my third point is around strategically networking, right? So we all need to be networking now more than ever. We need to be developing sponsors in our corporate role as well. So how are you going to hold yourself accountable to building those strong relationships, not even just in your job, but in the wider sphere of what you want to do? Those will be my 3 key tips, Paul.
All right. I love it. I think most important to me, what really resonated was, if you have a twerking video, then you should match that. So if you have a twerking video on Instagram, if you want to be true to yourself, you should twerk on LinkedIn also. Right?
No. You need to make sure it's all, the professional persona is aligned. Make sure that it's all joined up. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking, what if that's exercise for you? What if, forget it. But here's the thing. Marielle, thank you very much, everybody. Marielle is going to be right back with us. This is good. This is good stuff. Let's keep it going with our next guest, okay? Our next guest is someone who I actually talked about coming on to a panel months ago. She's someone else who's a dear friend of mine. She's representing all the Trinis in the house, right? So we got the Caribbean standing strong right here. But what I love about our next guest, who's Carla Paris, is that she is an attorney. And she's someone who I was talking to many months ago, or weeks, or I don't know, however long ago, where she reached out to me and she said, Paul, I don't think people are aware of the legal implications of a personal brand and things you should and should not be doing legally. And then she told me a story that I'll actually ask her to tell to everyone about a client I think she was working with, who I think basically had, she'll tell us, but I think it was like their identity was taken, or maybe they were mimicking someone else's identity. But the point here is that, I will be honest with you, I never personally thought about the legal implications of me building my professional and my personal brand. So I think this is great. This is a blessing to have Carla on. And then on top of it, Carla is someone I'm incredibly proud of. She's a pioneer, right? She has created one of my favorite shows. It's the business of Carnival. So if you're a Carnival fan, right, she talks about the business of Carnival. She's actually a thought leader in the business of Carnival space. You can catch it on YouTube. Probably you can catch it on her Facebook as well. But this is my sis coming to you from TNT, Carla Paris.
Hi, Paul. Thanks so much for having me. This is really exciting. And yeah, we spoke about this some weeks ago and just the importance of understanding the distinction between having a brand and a registered trademark. It's really crucial, especially nowadays when everyone is online.
You know what, Carla? So can you tell us what was that story? If you could tell everybody real quick, the story that you shared with me, and then also then break down why it is important for us to be aware of the legality around personal brand, and what can we be doing? What are 1, 2, 3 things that we could be doing to protect ourselves?
Okay, so what I was telling you was that I had noticed that during COVID, when basically everyone was online, and as you know, I think you had spoken about it recently, the fact that everybody now is having these online shows. You know, everyone now has become a blogger or whatnot. There was someone in particular, and that person was from Jamaica. And she had developed a strong following, a very popular brand. And then she realized about 2 or 3 weeks into starting a new show on Instagram that people were getting confused between which page should they follow. Should they follow her Instagram page or another Instagram page, which had popped up with the identical brand name that she was using for herself. And when she reached out to me, one of the first things that I said was, okay, well, do you have a certificate of trademark registration for that brand? And she said, no. And that's when I reached out to you and I said, look, Paul, you know, a lot of people don't understand the difference between calling themselves something, you know, let's call it, you know, it's a name, a slogan, and actually understanding the importance of that registering that as a piece of property that you own, that you can then prevent other people from using that name. So in terms of tips, I would say, you know, people need to understand that to own a brand, it's actually a piece of property. It's not the same thing as a company name. So your company may have different brands. For example, you know, the Coca-Cola group of companies, the brand that they own is Coca-Cola, as well as many other products which they create. Same thing for Pepsi or whatnot. Pepsi is a brand name that the company owns, and so on. So I would say, you know, you start by first checking your local registry. In Trinidad, it's called the Intellectual Property Office. In the US, it's called the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And, you know, you have to contact an attorney and do a search to see whether the name that you've been using for your products and services has already been used, because that's a major thing. A lot of people just sort of jump on a brand, they choose something, they start putting it on packages, and then they realize 6 months or a year later that they actually can't use that brand because it's owned by someone else.
All right. You know, it's interesting. I was in the comments. A lot of questions now are coming up about how do we protect our brand? What do we do? Right. It's funny. Every time an attorney shows up, everyone's like, let me get this free attorney advice. You know, let me get the free attorney advice. So everybody, Carla, you'll be back. Thank you very much. Carla will be on the panel. She'll be answering all these legal questions. So don't worry. She is here. Let's keep the panel going. The panel is fire today. I'm telling you, the panel is fire. Next up is my man, Bobby. So I want to say this about Bobby. Bobby is someone who was one of these people who I quietly watched on LinkedIn in particular. And what I recall about Bobby is that I don't know when we connected, but whenever we connected, I think he had, 4,000 or 5,000 people kind of in his LinkedIn tribe who were following him. And then, would check back in. He had 7,000, then 12,000, then 15,000, then 20,000, then 30,000. I think he's up to like 35, 36,000 people who follow him on LinkedIn. And the reason why I believe, or one of the reasons why, is because he is someone who has, I think, one of the best deliveries. Like, he's just someone who you want to listen to. He's humorous, etc. But he, I think, embodies what a lot of us should be doing in terms of striking that balance. Now I'm going to be thinking about twerking in the professional and striking the balance. But I think Bobby does a great job of showing and exhibiting his humorous, playful side, but at the same time, someone who comes across as a professional and knows what he's talking about. I really wanted him here in particular because a lot of y'all are pivoting right now. You might be pivoting because you got fired and that's your pivot, or you might be pivoting because you just woke up and you said, I need to be doing something differently. So I wanted Bobby in particular to come on and talk about this because he is an expert in this space. This is Bobby Umar. Bobby.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for bringing me on, Paul. I'm delighted.
Bobby, I appreciate it. I mean, especially with the short notice, man. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it.
All right. So now, Bobby, tell me this, okay? Tell me this. We, right? Almost everyone in this new world is pivoting.
Right.
Whether that's a completely new career, a new job, an enhancement in the job, right? As an entrepreneur, it's different products and services that you're selling, right? There's all this around pivoting. What do you believe are just 3 things that we should most be considering as professionals who are pivoting in this new world?
Great question. You have to pivot or perish, right? And so a lot of people have lost their jobs. They're reevaluating how they want to work and how they want to live. And so pivoting is going to be a huge part of what you're doing. So, and a lot of people don't invest in their personal brand. And I'm a huge personal branding advocate. So I think the number one thing you got to do is, while you're pivoting, while you're positioning, while you're trying to figure things out, while you're transitioning, while we are in COVID, while we're doing virtual online stuff, this is the time for you to invest and commit to a real, true, authentic personal brand experience. And that means to dive in and do the work. Do the work. It doesn't take that long. Are you willing to invest 30 to 40 hours of your time in order to have 50 years of fulfillment and happiness? And that's a good ROI, right? So this is the time for you to invest in your brand, to dive into your values, your stories, really understand who you are, what you stand for, how people perceive you, so that you can carve out a brand niche that is relevant to the community you serve, creates tremendous value, and is aligned with who you are in terms of what you believe in. And that's really, really exciting place to be. And a lot of people have parts of their brand recognized. A lot of people don't do the work. A lot of people are just slightly there, or they kind of take a guess, but they don't do the work to invest. So number one, I think you should invest and commit to discovering your personal brand. There's 3 parts of personal branding, right? There's the discovering piece, to know who you are. There's a design piece to understand your target objectives and then your assets and then how you want to strategize. And then there's delivering your brand, which is putting yourself out there. That's the first piece. The second piece I'll say is, while you are pivoting and while you are diving your brand, you should be starting conversations and starting content. Just book people for calls and just talk about what's going on with them, what's going on with me, what's going on with you. Over the last 2.5 months during COVID, I've booked over 200 calls with people. And what I've been able to do is learn a lot about how things are going, how people are feeling, and how people are shifting. And there's a lot of shifts across a broad range of industries, across a broad range of professionals. So it's good to be on the pulse of what's going on. And plus, everybody wants to talk about what's going on. Let's the elephant in the room is here. Let's talk about it. It's totally fine to be authentic about saying, look, COVID is challenging. Working from home is challenging. I'm working from home with kids. I'm in my room. I'm in my son's room, right? Because I can't sit in the living room because the kids are there working on their homeschooling. So it's complicated, right? So it's okay to put that out there. And when I also say start, I also say you should start having content. Put content out there, posts, videos, whatever it is. And then while you're doing those 2 things, the third thing I should suggest you do is that ultimately you should be thinking about, how do I build an online thought leadership brand? The truth is, online is the name of the game. It is the now normal. And so I'm a speaker, and will speaking and live events come back again? Probably not, or at least it'll be mostly virtual, some live. So we have to adjust. And so now is the time to really build trust and build an online presence that is dynamic and engaging. So I encourage all of you, think about actually how do I not to build a brand? How do I build a thought leadership brand that demonstrates my expertise and my niche in this universe? And if you do that, and you do the first 2 steps, which is commit to the process and start the conversations, then you're going to start to make true impact.
Yeah. I tell you, what I really resonated with there, Bobby, is how, we're the dads, right? I have 2 boys. I have 2 boys. We're the dad. And you know what? They run everything. They run the house.
Exactly. I was kicked out.
It's we're in the closet. I've literally recorded from the closet before, right? Yeah. It's crazy. But Bobby, thank you so much. Bobby, I saw questions in here for you as well, but Bobby's coming right back. Don't worry about that. He will be here with us. But real quick, I'm just curious. what's the wildest place that you've recorded from in your house? Like that you've recorded a video, that you've written some content from? Because literally I've gone outside, like on our little like deck here, right? But I have been in the closet before because I needed to have crisp sound, and the boys were just like yelling. Like, it was just crazy, right? All right, now exactly right. Jane is like, they run the house. They completely run the house. Last, but definitely not least, is the person who, when I think about branding, right? Nick Nelson is the first person that comes to mind. Like if you say brand and you say entrepreneur, right? Branding of an entrepreneur, Nick Nelson is the first person that comes to mind. And I think it's really for two reasons. One is that he is brilliant in his work that he does, right? And you'll see if you follow him on LinkedIn, like all of LinkedIn follows him, right? Or you see him on Instagram or whatever the social platform is, you'll see that he posts often these videos where it's not even, I don't call it a transformation. I think he kind of like highlights the best of someone, and he's able to then help them to better depict it visually, right? In their photographs and how they show up online, right? So he's like this master of taking people who already show up well offline in real life, but then helping them to show up even more powerfully online. So that's one reason that comes to mind. But the second is that he's brilliant in his branding of himself, right? He's Nick Nelson, the brandpreneur. Like he calls himself this is the moniker, right? The brandpreneur. And it's brilliant because to me, it's just like, it just forces you to connect the two. He becomes top of mind. And I think that's really what we want as anyone building a brand, is you want to be top of mind. So that being said, of course, when I was thinking about, so I want to do a branding episode for entrepreneurs, of course, it's like called Nick, right? He's the first person. So we got my man, Nick Nelson. There he goes.
How you doing, sir?
Man, Nick, also I have to say this from when we were doing the little video stuff. I want to say this. Nick did the quickest sound check and video check of anyone. I've done 30 of these sessions. We've had probably 100 people on. Nick's was 30 seconds. And Nick is the only person who I've ever seen come on with a camera that zooms in and out. Like his whole
we do this, Paul. It's not a game. We do this.
It's not a game, man. It's not a game. All right. So Nick, of course, I thought about you right out the gate because I think that right now is a time where we're trying to figure out, how do we operate differently?
Yeah.
Right. It was like there was a different world before COVID, the anti-racism wave, etc. There's a different world, and now we're living in this new world, and we don't even know what the world is really going to look like, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious from you, what are 2 or 3 things we should be doing differently now that we probably, maybe it wasn't priority in the old world, right? Or it wasn't something that we should have done in the old world. What are 2 to 3 things that we should be doing differently now as we're trying to build our brands?
So the big thing about now is that, prior to then, people had jobs, people weren't losing, the economy was doing its thing. Then COVID came into place. People started losing jobs. People started going on lockdown. People learned the word Zoom for the first time. And so the first thing I tell people here is that you have to understand that this is how people will see you more often than not. You can't depend on the in-person experience. You are an experience, right? Many of you are used to, this is how I show up in person. Now you have to figure out, how do I show up online? Oftentimes, when I look at people online, they're haphazard about it. They tend to show these 3 things. They show their family, they show themselves, or then quite frankly, they show their ass online. And what I'm trying to get people to understand is now you need to show your insights. You used to be able to go to a networking event and give your insights. You used to be able to be on a panel, an actual panel, and give insights. Now what you're having to do is you are now competing for thought leadership, because there are so many people out there who have insights. If you know a thing, You can teach a thing, provide insights, talk about what you know. The other thing you have to understand is not everybody wants to hear what you have to say. They don't. Many people just don't care. You have to understand who is the audience that you're talking to. But in order to understand that, you need to understand what problem are you solving. You need to know what it is you're selling and what it is you're doing and for who. Once you understand and you're able to fine tune, okay, this is the person I'm talking to, and you understand that problem, you have to articulate what makes you different. Why are you special? Out of everybody out here that's selling something, why am I doing it? And why am I not just an option, but the only option for that specific person? Then you have to do it consistently. The problem that I see with so many people is you're hot and cold. You'll start 1 second, then you stop. You'll produce this content. Well, you know what, Nick, nobody's really liking it. And it takes too long to do. And you just get discouraged and you stop. Let me tell you something. This is a sprint. This is something where you have to go out there and you have to show up consistently. Am I saying show up every day? No, that did not come out of my mouth. Showing up out of every day did not come out of my mouth. Showing up consistently. All right. I know people who post once per week, but if you're going to post once per week, by God, it's got to be impactful, right? It has to be impactful. But in media, they call it impressions. Impressions are reach and frequency. I have to understand who specifically am I trying to reach. That's your target audience. Then it's frequency, understanding that people, it takes them many times of you saying one thing. Stop being all over the place. Like literally find you a lane and talk about it consistently, at least 80% of the time. Once you do that and people see you doing it over and over again, they'll begin to equate you to that one thing. But man, you gotta understand who your audience is. You have to understand what makes you different by understanding the problem that you solve. And then you have to have a cycle of consistency in terms of articulating one thing over and over and over and over again. It's better with Paul. I understand that, right? You're saying it over and over again. At least, 4 times out the week, we get understanding of it's better with Paul, right?
Right.
Right? I've never seen you post this much before, man. But like literally, bro. Seriously. But you are a classic example. You're a classic example. Paul was out there in the world doing the most, man, matchmaking and everything. Paul got on lockdown. He was like, the one thing that you'll learn is that everybody is forgettable. Post it. Let me tell you something. Be quiet if you want to. You will be forgotten, man. Yeah. That's why it's so very important now than ever. You've got to say something, right? Something. Open up your brand mouth. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, man. All right. Hold on. All right, Nick. I have 10 different things to say about that, but I'm bringing you back to the panel so we could say all those things. But also, when you come back, I would love for you also to talk about how we show up optimally, because one of the things that I love about your brand is it's always crisp. Like even now, for example, like I joked about the camera and people are like, man, Nick has got he's got the step and repeat behind him. It's just like everything is crisp also, and that connects, I think, to your brand. So when I think about Nick, I'm like, okay, brandpreneur, crisp. Like I'm thinking about all of these elements as well. But we'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk about that. All right, guys, that was Nick. You see, he was preaching. See what I was talking about? The panel is on fire. The panel's on fire. All right. So here's what I want you to do, guys. I'm going to bring back the panel in just 60 seconds. I want you to start entering in your questions. Now, I saw there were a lot of questions from earlier on that I'll try to scroll back to get, but please try to get your questions in because this is a conversation and clearly you could see we've got the right panel for the conversation. So coming back to the stage, we had Marielle, she was here. Then we had Carla, then she came on. Then we had Bobby in his son's room, right? In the closet somewhere in the room. And then we had Nick, right? So we got everybody. All right. So while folks are entering in questions, I want to start with the one question that I have been getting the entire last week. And that is this. Does not posting about anti-racism make me appear as if I'm a racist. And I saw some people said in this chat, some people said, if you don't post about it, that makes you complicit. You need to speak your mind. I've seen other people say, no, that's going to take your brand off track. You don't want to show up that way with your brand. Help us. I mean, help us. What do y'all think about this one?
I'll start. So when you're dealing with that, Paul, brands are a part of it. Being a brand is evoking a feeling. It's evoking emotion, right? We are in very emotional times now. Do not post about anything unless you are educated. Number one. Do not post about anything unless you have empathy, right? Be empathetic to a situation. You might not necessarily agree, but empathy should be your North Star in terms of it. Should you post? If you are not a political person, please don't try to be a political person right now. This is not your season. Wait until your season. All right. If you are a racist, please don't say nothing right now. This is not your season, right? You've had a season. This ain't it right now. Okay. Only post about it if it's in alignment with who you are, your character, and your values. If it's in alignment with that, then figure out a way that you can articulate yourself in a way that is intelligent, in a way that is thoughtful, in a way that is empathetic, right? So that your voice can actually be heard and there is no distraction around what it is you're trying to articulate.
Anybody else on the panel? I know.
I agree with you fully, Nick. And I would also go to add, if you're a business, I feel like it is your duty to really be vocal on what you are doing to really educate your employees, your staff, and your broader stakeholders. I feel if you are a company, then 100% you have a responsibility to be communicating what you're doing to really stem and combat and address racism.
I would say that I agree with Nick, and I also agree with you, Marielle. I think that it's kind of important as a brand to post about things that you understand and that you can speak to, and you're not just kind of adding a voice because everybody else is adding a voice, and then you just kind of come across very inauthentic, which I think could be happening with some brands that are sort of jumping into a conversation and their perspective isn't really clear. So I just think it's about having clarity and whatever your position is, articulating that, very, very well.
I'll add my 2 cents now. I mean, first off, I'm going to say that it's important to check your privilege wherever you are at. I think that's really important. As a brown person, I've not experienced what a lot of Black people have gone through. And so I didn't really want to go first in this conversation. That's the first thing. The second thing I'll say is that there's values and there's value. And so you need to be sure about when you share something that aligns with your values. And when you do share something, it has to be something that provides tremendous value to your target audience. What I will say is that if you have an audience that is hurting, that's in pain, and you empathize with what they're going through, I think acknowledging what they're going through and acknowledging the pain and what people are talking about, I think is totally relevant to your brand. And I think that's important for people to do that. And I also call on all allies out there that we also need your voices to actually be empathetic and put stuff out too. So, we need your voice out there as well. But I also echo, that, it has to be something that's relevant, it makes sense, it's empathetic and all that. But I think at the same time, it's important to, I encourage, I like it when people actually post about it as long as they share their feelings. And it's okay to say, look, I'm feeling confused, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling, helpless. The feelings are something that really resonate with me and they're authentic to your brand, as long as you don't take that in a direction where you're coming out in a very negative way. But I encourage people to do that. That's kind of my take.
All right. Just one last follow up on this, and then we'll move on, is because showing up often with authenticity is so important in branding. How do you feel about posting, like I am getting educated. Like, I'm sitting here reading, Black Labor, White Wealth, by Claude Anderson. Like, how important do you think that is in your brand building? So you're not at a position where you can talk about it intelligently, but you're just conveying what the path that you're on. Or do you suggest, no, you don't know about it, just stick to your 1, 2, 3 things that you do well?
I think it's fine to acknowledge that you don't know about it. I think as long as you're transparent and authentic with it, I think that's totally fine. And I respect that more than somebody that feels that they have to just post for the sake of it. I think just being honest in acknowledging that you don't know all there is to know, or that you don't know what it's like to be victimized or oppressed, but that you're willing and open to learn. I think that's totally fine to share that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that it opens up a dialogue and a conversation, even if you don't know anything about it and you're learning. What you're doing here is you are exposing to some people who might not have even heard of what it is you're referencing. And so, and then other people might have already gone down that path and have learned what it is you're trying to learn and can educate you in other ways. So being transparent and talking about, I don't know anything about this, but I'm learning. I think that's very relevant because, quite frankly, we are all learning. No one knows everything. You should be a lifelong learner. And so putting that out there and talking about what it is you're doing to be more aware, I think is actually a great thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's jump into some of these other questions because they're starting to add up here. All right, a lot of questions around, all right, there's a lot of emotional stress in the world right now, but I got to sell these products, man. I got to sell these services. I got to keep the light bill on, right? What should we be doing? What do you think is there the right strategy, the wrong strategy in selling right now?
Paul, I would just jump into that discussion there to say that in terms of your right strategy in selling, it goes back to the whole conversation about authenticity and sort of speaking to your truth, because the reality is that, here in the Caribbean, specifically, I would say as, Afro-Caribbean persons, our experience of racism is a little bit different from the reality of the Afro-American. Here in the Caribbean, we are the majority. We're not ethnic minorities. So although we would have experienced and understand and obviously, see what's happening there, what we see is different. What we experience is shadism, classism, a lot of different things, so it's evoking a lot of conversations here. I can speak to Trinidad and Tobago that definitely causing brands to look at how they engage with these issues that are specific to our particular, kind of post-colonial realities. And in terms of selling products, I think it's important to not appear as though you're just sort of tacking on to this discussion, and just sort of hashtagging, Black Lives Matter, as I said, to appear to care or appear to be interested, but to have real authentic discussions. And a lot of brands locally, when I say locally in Trinidad, are doing that. So they're encouraging, their audience members to meet up somewhere. Let's discuss this. So, how can we, in Trinidad and Tobago, as Black business owners, support each other better? That's the kind of conversations that are happening now. So there are directories and listings that are being shared of businesses that persons previously would not have been aware of, to say, well, look, one of the ways that you can sort of beat racism is through wealth. It's wealth creation. So you can only generate wealth when you're earning, and you earn by supporting business. And it doesn't mean you're not supporting other people's businesses, but you're just sort of being more intentional.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Here's a question that just popped up. I want to hit this from Natasha. She said that she's been focused on her brand under her company name. What should she be doing to build her personal brand? Should she create a new social page for that? This is a popular question, right? So what's your thought? What's your thought on this one?
So Paul, people buy into people, they don't buy into brands. So Natasha, even though you have your brand under your company name, right? At the end of the day, people are still buying Natasha. Okay. So you have to put yourself first. They don't know what your company is, but they do know who you are. They can see you, they can hear you, they can understand what you believe because Natasha has a belief system. They understand what it is you're selling because you're going to be actually out there talking about, this is what I know and this is what I can do and what I can solve for you. And with that, they will get to understand your brand. With that, they'll get to understand everything else. See, the reason why you develop your personal brand is that company, you might wake up tomorrow and be like, you know, I don't want to do that no more. I'm so sick of that, right? But that's fine because Natasha has established brand Natasha. And so Natasha can pivot to something else. And so that's why you want to focus on putting yourself first and then directing people over to the other entities that you would like for them to be a part of.
Your personal brand lives forever. Companies don't.
Yeah. And I would add to that, Natasha, also make sure that you're sharing your story as well. Like, why did you start the business? What challenges have you overcome to get there? Really take your audience on a journey with you so that they could really resonate with you on a deeper level. And you do that through content.
Yeah. You know, that I think that was a great response. There were, it's interesting. I went back to Carla to look at the questions that were coming in for you.
Yeah.
There have been so many questions in the queue today that StreamYard has limited me. I can't even go back to see. So if you had a question for Carla, there was a lot of questions, right? Legal questions. Ask that again. But let me kick off with one that I remember, and that is to what extent should we be trademarking, Carla? Like, we could trademark everything, you know? I mean, what is for those who are in the beginning stages, right? We're not at Nick level yet in our brand building. You know, we're just starting. What should we at minimum be trademarking at minimum?
Okay, so I mean, let's kind of bring it home, right? So we are all here on this show called Better with Paul, right? I think it was Bobby who was saying, I'm not sure particularly, who was saying that, you know, every week we see Paul coming out, we're all looking out for his shows, we're looking out for all these discussions. So when you hear the word or the slogan, Better with Paul, you align that with Paul Brunson. So Paul, that is a brand, right, that you should be looking at in terms of registering as a trademark under your company, because we as your audience members would not 6 months later want to see somebody else with a similar type of show, similar educational value, come out with the name Better with Paul or Paulette, and we're now confused about, well, is this Paul Brunson? Is this Paul whoever? That's where you should be looking at starting your whole process. Am I developing a strong audience? Is it resonating? And so on. And it really is not a very complicated process once you understand why you're doing it. And I want to go back to something, I think it was Natasha had a comment about her brand is under her company name or something like that, just to let you know that yes, you have a company name, but registering a trademark is a distinct process. So let's say her company is called Natasha, I don't know, you know, LLC or Natasha Limited. I'm assuming that with whatever product or goods or services that she's creating, that the name Natasha might be written with some sort of figurative element or in some sort of specific font. That's what you would be looking to, you know, sort of register as a trademark together with, perhaps it might be a slogan, Better with Natasha or something like that. That creates now a stronger product that you're selling. Or if a company wants to invest with you, they understand that you have these sort of, you know, intangible elements that belong to your company. It strengthens the value of their company. So they know they're investing in various aspects of intellectual property.
You know, Carla, just to jump in, I'm sure my man Iffy right here was saying this as a joke, or my lady right here. But let's say she said, Paul, I'm gonna race you to it. Right now, she is trademarking Better with Paul. Right, like now, there's somebody trademarking Better with Paul. So thank you, Carla, for that. Right, somebody's trademarking it.
Yeah.
If the trademark is there, I'm just curious. Would I still be allowed to use Better with Paul hashtag?
No, because they're there before you. That's the whole point. It's about trademarks are best based on prior usage. So
Oh,
you have your name there. You haven't done your homework. So
and Paul, you need the circle R. You need the circle. That's the one. That's the super trademark. See, the thing that many people get confused on is you have the TM, right? Which is trademark, right? But that's not what you want to go for, brother. You want to go for the circle with the R. That's registered. Registered makes you untouchable.
That's correct. That's your certificate of registration, which in your case, you will get from the USPTO, right? Okay. Once you have that, you own that for 10 years. You can license that to another company. You can license that to a brand, because let's say 5 years from now, you're not interested in producing Better with Paul, but somebody else is. The brand is so strong that another company says, we will produce Better with Paul, but you're going to sell them now these rights. It's kind of like, think of a franchise, the McDonald's franchise or Starbucks, which is all over the world. Those are licensing franchise rights, which those brands sell, right, to the various companies or whatnot for the privilege of using that brand name. If you do not own it as a trademark, you're already now sort of diluting the value of your company.
But isn't there a big difference? Isn't there a big difference between national brands and international brands? Like I know some, like I'm from Canada, so we can brand something in Canada and people from outside can't come in and brand it as long as it's registered in Canada. But then there's a difference with international brands.
Yes, you're not complicating the issue here. Yes, that is absolutely correct. I didn't really want to go in that direction, but yes, laws are jurisdictional. So you own them in the country in which you protected in. But now if you want your brand to be protected globally, you need something, it's called an intellectual property strategy. So you say, okay, I want my brand to be owned in Jamaica, Paul. You know, you're going to want that first and foremost, right? So it's owned in the United States, Jamaica, perhaps like in Europe. But these are what global brands do. They develop a budget for an intellectual property strategy. So if for example, if I were to look up the Intellectual Property Office of Trinidad and Tobago, Pepsi, McDonald's, all these brands are registered here, right? Now, there is an exception for well-known famous marks where persons would say there's no way you couldn't have known that you were infringing on this brand. So they won't be allowed to register a similar name. But just for, the purposes of proper businesses, these global companies register their brands all over the world anyway.
Okay, well, that's it. I mean, look, Tony said right here, look, right here. Look, the look on my face. Nick, you said the one with the R. I'm gonna tell you what. If anybody registers this, and I see the registration date is today, hey, we're gonna go outside and we're gonna sell it like we used to back in the day. If I see the registration date for Better with Paul is today. All right. So now let's switch gears a little bit. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the visuals. Right. This is something that I love about all of you all in terms of the content that you produce. Talk to us about, at minimum, visually, how should we be showing up? How should we show up online visually?
Visually, Paul, you have to look at in terms of how do you want to project? What feeling are you trying to project? And more specifically for your industry, what's acceptable? People who are in business, legal, things of that nature. I have some clients who, for a Zoom call, they're wearing hard bottoms because they want to stay in that mode, right? Like literally, their look has to be one of professionalism, has to be one of security, stabilization all the time. You want to project an image that is consistent. Part of the issue that I have with so many people online is that even from your headshot, the one that you use for LinkedIn is not the one that you use for Facebook, is not the one that you use for Instagram. And there needs to be some brand consistency, right? I look at your headshot as almost like your logo, right? Your personal brand logo. And so if I'm looking for you because I want to follow you across multiple platforms, it's harder for me to do that if I don't have that same look and feel. And also you want to have consistency. So when people see you, because we're always scrolling, we're constantly scrolling. But if you have a consistent look and feel, a person will notice you even without looking at your name. They'll be like, I understand who that is. based off of the attire, what they're wearing, even all the way to their hairstyle and facial features. So you want to just be mindful of that as you're thinking about imaging. And 80% of what a person thinks about you, they develop based off of nonverbals. It's your image. You create feeling off of that. And so that's why that's very important in terms of just there being some consistency and you understanding who it is you're targeting and that your image is appropriate for them.
Yes. And I would add to, sorry. I would add to that as well. I think as a woman as well, working from home, I make sure that I've got makeup on and that I'm dressed professionally, because it really does impact your mood as well. So if I'm wearing jogging bottoms or just a t-shirt, I know that I'm not going to feel as switched on as I would if I actually put on some makeup and make an effort. So I do feel like it really does impact your mood when you make more of an effort.
I was just going to add that everything you do to add to your brand, to your visual, will enhance the effect. At the same time, I also want to be mindful that every single one of you can't do everything, whether it's having cool technology and cool videos with all the bells and whistles. So I understand that too. And also your target audience, may vary from person to person. So do what you can, the best you can, but also don't feel bad if you're not as sophisticated as some people. Just show up, create content, offer value, share your thoughts, just get going, because most of you don't get going, and that's the thing I want you to do is just start.
Just get going. And also to follow up on that, Bobby, what our man Andrew Roby said, and make sure what we see online.
What you
come on now.
Please and thank you.
That is real. All right. So if I would love, I didn't see this question come through, but I believe there's someone in the audience that has this. What are one or two of your best audience building techniques? Because a lot of people, they think brand, they then attach that to, okay, I have an audience and I want to have a larger audience or, a more influential audience, whatever it may be, but I want an audience. What are 1-2 tips on creating more audience, especially digitally?
Engagement is one of the biggest things that you can do. Far too often we think about, okay, I'm trying to build an audience, so I'm going to post. All right. I'm going to, as my girl Cher Jones says, don't post and ghost. It is not about just posting your content and then an audience will come. No, you have to engage with them. So if you're going to be out there, if somebody responds, you respond back to them. But then also it's you engaging with other people. So don't be so brand selfish online. Go out there and like somebody else's stuff, comment on them. And what that does is they now see you. You become visible to them. And they're going to, the same way that when you post something and you're refreshing your screen saying, how many likes do I have? How many views do I have? Did anybody leave a comment? They're doing the same thing. And if you do that, what you're doing is you're making what we call friends online. That's not like real friends in real life. It's like you like and comment on my stuff. I like and comment on your stuff. Let's be friends.
That's a good relationship building tactic for sure.
It is. Any other thoughts on audience building? Because I see several people now have jumped in to say, yeah, this was a question that I had. So audience building. So engagement is huge. What else are you guys thinking?
I have one, which is, one of the things with my content is about the 80-20 rule. So 80% of my content is aligned and focused on the brand, the audience that I serve. 20% of my content is meant to actually expand the breadth of my content and my audience. So I'll bring in a new speaker to talk about something that I don't know anything about, or I'll talk about something that's not really aligned with what I normally would talk about. So maybe I'll talk about parenting, or I'll talk about social justice. I mean, I for the first time ever in my life, I posted against racism. And I think that's important to actually diversify what you talk about, because I think that also is a great way to generate an audience. The second thing that I think I do is offering tools that, that are quick pieces for people to get excited about. So whether I have a webinar or I have a downloadable lead magnet, these are things that offer value to people. And that often will, lead to more emails and more people joining my newsletter and joining my tribe and following me. So those are probably my two big things that I do.
Yeah. I think it's also important to really be clear on your ideal client in a much deeper way, because Most people that I see just talk about themselves. And I think that doesn't often lead to much engagement. So the way that I've been able to build my audience online, whether it be LinkedIn or Instagram, is just really, really talking to the pain points of my ideal clients in a really granular way. So what are they fearful of right now? What are their desires? What does utopia look like to them? Because then I often get responses and DMs back from people saying, oh my gosh, Marielle, it was like you were just in my head. You really resonated with me. I felt like you were talking directly to me. And really just by engaging and having that conversation back and forth is how I've been able to build my audience.
All right.
I also think it's about sort of developing a clear understanding of what people consider to be valuable information. So sort of, I think what I see a lot of people doing is jumping on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever the social media platform is, and immediately wanting to charge really high prices for whatever products or services they may be doing. So let's say, you were never really somebody that was a copywriter, but you've decided now, you're going to create blogs or help people become a business coach. It doesn't make sense if, one, you don't have a strong following in that area, two, you haven't demonstrated your value to the audience first. So I think, and it may be counterintuitive for some people, but delivering really clear value points for free.
Yes.
For some period of time, that's definitely how I was. And it sounds strange because I'm a lawyer and people think, but how come you've given free advice? But I kind of built my social media presence and sort of built up to having my YouTube show by coming online and talking about key areas in intellectual property law, fashion law, music law across the Caribbean for free. And then after that, then I was able to say, okay, you know what? People have developed confidence in me as an expert in my field, as in a niche area. And then my price points and my value points grew. But you don't just kind of come out of nowhere and decide, okay, I'm going to be a business coach, which is really popular nowadays, or a branding coach or whatnot. You don't actually have that strong following, strong expertise, and I think that's what it is, kind of being okay to give in order to then receive down the line.
Yeah. And that content creates conversations, which leads to relationships. It's all about people building relationships. Right?
Yeah. And I love that, Carla, because I feel like people, when you give away your best value, they're thinking, oh my gosh, she's giving this away for free. Yeah. Imagine what her paid content is like. And that's how you really draw people in.
Yeah. There's one other thing you got to think about here, and this is you're dealing with technology. All right. So part of audience building is understanding the technology. So we're right here on LinkedIn. A couple of things. First of all, in your profile, in your summary, that is the prime real estate, right? If we were playing Monopoly, that would be Boardwalk, okay? But in it, I see far too often people try to put a full dissertation in there. When you're dealing with online, you're dealing with keywords. Keywords are very important. All right. We're keyword based. I'm an author, speaker, coach, strategist, accountant, whatever. But you have to be very clear and understand that it's keywords based, even all the way down to hashtagging. Many people within this platform, they follow specific hashtags. What are the hashtags in which your audience is going to, be searching for when they're looking for someone who does what you do, or they're looking for somebody to connect with? Also, the last thing that I want to bring is time of day or day part in which you post. Having an understanding of when to post is very important. If you have some great content, but you're posting it on like an awkward hour, like Saturday at 11:59 p.m., there's not as many people on the platform, and engagement happens within the first 30 minutes. Like literally, you got 30 minutes to make a dent. And they will say, okay, either this is going to fly or it's going to be dead in the water. So you got to understand which day part works for you and your audience. So there's some technical aspects of this, Paul, also, in addition to just the good content and other things that other panelists have talked about.
Let me even pose that as maybe a last question for the panel, and then I'll bring you back individually for the closeout. And that is because each of you are respective experts, right, within the branding space. So when you think about the future, right? The next 3 months, the next year, what is one thing that you believe we should be aware of when it comes to branding, right? And when you think about the future, so just for example, Nick was just talking about technology, right? I just read that LinkedIn is getting ready to roll out stories, and they're testing it in different areas, but they're getting ready to roll out stories. So the importance of knowing, okay, stories is coming to LinkedIn. Let me prepare for that. So therefore I can take advantage of this new feature. When you think about just branding in general, whether it's a technological feature or a new platform or just the way that industries will trend, what's something that you think future looking we should be aware of, we should be preparing for? And I know this is a tough one, but you know, that's why I have you all on. To answer this one.
Voice is a big one, Paul. I mean, like literally, pretty soon it's going to be, hey, you know, Google, go get me some McDonald's. Like literally, voice is the next big thing, and it's coming. And even brands having specific tones, like when you hear, you know, the Intel tone, doom, 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 you know, like literally, it's taking branding beyond from a visual standpoint, and now it's auditory. It's audio branding. That is going to be the way, either through your voice or through what it is you hear that equates you and directs you, or at least reminds you of a specific brand. So as you're looking at that, audio is definitely going to be a big part in terms of the future of branding.
That's a good point. It reminds me of Alexa with Amazon. You know, she's the voice of Amazon. You may have voices of other brands like McDonald's or Starbucks that are talking to us in that way. One thing I'll add in terms of the future, you know, I think the future is going to be far more virtual than we realize. And so we need to invest in understanding and leveraging the technology. And I'm a big proponent of video. I talk about doing video all the time, but we just have to get better at that because, you know, right now, 1% of LinkedIn users use video, create content ongoing. And of that, 1% only create video content. So there's a huge opportunity to create video content for the future if you want to build your thought leadership brand, particularly on LinkedIn. So I encourage everyone to stay up to speed on all the trends on video stuff, whether it's apps on your phone or technology tools to help you make your videos far more effective and get greater reach for your brand.
Yeah, agree.
I think that I want to kind of add to what Bobby's saying in terms of the virtual world, because it's very, very relevant. And I can speak to, of course, what's happening in the Caribbean and Carnival. Like all of our carnivals have been canceled for the rest of the year. Those are huge income earners for persons across a variety of sectors. And now many of us are looking at having virtual events online to showcase carnival costumes, live events, live music. So I think that it's relevant to everyone here on the panel and the audience to look at intellectual property law, specifically as it relates to these online events, because we keep hearing, okay, you're going to have a virtual event or create video content. Well, there are going to be a whole host of infringements, and your company and your brand may be liable if you don't clear the title to a lot of these things beforehand. You can't just embed somebody else's music in your online show, you know, or use pictures that don't belong to you, photography, images, that kinds of stuff. Even in terms of what you know, the other panelist was talking about. Sorry, I can't see his name at the bottom of the screen. That brandpreneur, sort of, you know, voice technology. All of that is intellectual property, which has to be licensed. So I would say investing in proper legal expertise is what has to happen, and also investing in real digital strategists who understand the game, not just somebody who's going to say, well, I'm going to post on your page for you. Because there's a difference between somebody who can post pictures and somebody who can actually help you to grow a brand, right, leverage your audience, and come up with proper, you know, techniques for conversion into sales.
And just to add to that, talking about sales and voice and video, to marry that all together, one thing that I'm helping a lot of my clients do is to really leverage the voice note facility on LinkedIn as a way to build rapport quickly, because I feel like that is just far more effective just than written text these days. That's working really well to help my clients just build greater relationships online.
All right, that's excellent. I want to start the close right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everyone off the screen, with the exception of Bobby. It's just me and Bobby, right?
I missed it already.
Bobby, I tell you what, let me hit you with this one last question, and then we'll close with how we can support you. Is what's the number one thing that kind of irritates you or that you're concerned with in terms of branding? Like what's that number one mistake? I want to ask all the panelists this. The number one mistake that people are making today with their personal brand.
The number one thing that concerns me with personal branding is people aren't willing to commit or invest in doing it. They talk about how they're feeling unfulfilled. I'm feeling lost in my career, stuck in my job. I'm unhappy. They have these narratives of, resignation and stagnation, and they want to go from good to great, but they're not willing to do the work. And so there are people out there who are struggling and need help and are trying to figure it out, and they're feeling lost. And the truth is, if you're willing to fight for the life that you want and fight for the brand you want and build the life that you want to build, I will help you. Others will help you. But you have to be willing to ask for the help and commit to it and commit to branding. Because once you commit to the brand and you dive into it and you do that work, you will find more clarity, alignment, focus, and impact. If that's something that's important to you, then man, just start.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. I'm testimony to that. Just do it, right? Just do it. So I tell you what, Bobby, this has been incredible. How can we support you, or what's a way that we can contact you so that we can then get your help as we're building out our brands?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I'm maxing out my connections. So you can follow my profile on LinkedIn, which is Bobby Umar. I also have a company page called Bobby Umar. You can follow that company page as well. You can also check me on social media across Rayhan Bobby, which is my handle. I'm everywhere. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that I got this right here. So this is you on LinkedIn right here, correct?
Yeah, correct.
All right, super. So everybody, right? You want more of what Bobby was saying? Please follow him on LinkedIn. I'm connected with Bobby on LinkedIn. He puts out some incredible content. Bobby, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank your son too for allowing you to be in the room.
I will. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
All right, good stuff. Take care, Bobby. All right, next up, I'm going to bring on my sis here. This is Carla. Carla, what is one major mistake that you often see people making with their personal brand today?
Not registering their brands as trademarks, Paul. That's it.
Oh, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to on this one?
That is the number one mistake, saying that they have a strong brand, a strong following. And when I do a search online, there's nothing there that says you are a registered and protected trademark. That is the number one thing. So it's very hard for me to help you when you are infringed because you don't have that certificate. And we have to kind of start from ground zero.
Okay. All right. I have a headache. I have a slight headache now. Thank you. Thank you.
You're not supposed to have a headache. You're supposed to feel at ease with what your steps are.
No, because I know someone. Because quite honestly, like let's keep it real. I know that we've got a strong tribe here that watches that are supportive. But I know there's a couple of haters in the audience that just watch it just to keep their eyes on me. I know for a fact someone is registered better with Paul already.
Paul, do not speak it into existence. Words are powerful.
Hey, I'm telling you, if that happens, me and Nick are going to go and just knock on their door. That's it.
Yeah.
We handle it like we did back in the day.
Or we write them a strongly worded letter because your brand has been out there and you may have common law usage.
Yes. All right. So Carla, now that you've given me a headache, how can we support you, right? Because you're doing a lot of incredible things that I'm very proud of. What's one way that we can support you?
Okay. You can follow our YouTube series, The Business of Carnival, on my YouTube page. It is Carla Paris, LLB, LLM. That's the YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Business of Carnival. My personal Instagram is Carla_Paris. And most importantly, right now, and it's quite divine, really, that, Paul called me up today for this talk. And next week, Thursday, I have a masterclass online that I'm teaching on brand strategy and trademark registration. As of tomorrow, we actually have a discount that ends tomorrow. That's $65 to take part in this class. And then we have add-on, very, very heavily discounted add-on fees of $35 for a half-hour consultation. So I would encourage all of you to jump on, take part in our masterclass next week, Thursday. It's online, it's on Zoom, it's midday. Paul, I believe that we were going to put the link in the comment section so everybody could just kind of jump on and look at, subscribing and registering.
Yeah, you know what? I can't get into everyone because StreamYard doesn't permit. But if someone on each platform can just type in the bit.ly this link and then post it, that way everyone has it, and then it'll be good. Also, too, I want to show you this, Carla. I think this is a great headline. Breaking news tomorrow.
Love it, love it, Paul. That's correct. That's breaking news.
That's the breaking news for tomorrow. But Carla, there's the link once again. If you guys can make sure that you get, okay, I see people posting it right now. I see it's in Periscope, it's in Facebook, so it's coming. And LinkedIn is always a little bit behind on StreamYard. But Carla, thank you very much. Thank you for everything that you do. Thanks for being a thought leader, in the carnival space, and stay safe.
Thanks for having me, Paul. This was great.
Definitely. All right. Next up. All right. I see, and LinkedIn's got it too. Thank you guys for doing that. All right. Next up, going to my sis Marielle in London.
Hi.
In London, ripping down slave owners, slave traders here in London. In Bristol, man. The UK really woke up overnight. We'll see what happens long term, but I find it fascinating.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting.
Marielle, what do you think the number one issue that people are making right now with their personal brand?
There are several, but I would say the number one is that people out there are saying they need to let their work speak for themselves. Your work can't speak. So you must be proactively sharing what you do and getting really visible, because you're only ever going to be rewarded for visible work. That's work that people can see and work that people can pay you for. So you must proactively be promoting your work and not leaving it to chance. That's the number one mistake.
All right. Yeah, I'm with that. I'm completely with that one. So now, Marielle, what can we do to support you? Somebody's in the audience there, they want more visibility themselves.
Yes.
What can we do to support you?
So I've got a ton of free resources. In fact, I've got a checklist, a personal branding checklist that I could share. I could share the link. Shall I post it in the chat?
Yeah, and if you say it out loud too, I'll type it in as well. Yeah,
so I'll put it here. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Marielle Laguerre is my social media name, my real name, on LinkedIn and also Instagram. My business name is Women Who Influence on Instagram. So if you're more of an Instagram person, just connect with me there, Women Who Influence. But I'm also very active on LinkedIn as well. And it's just my full name, Marielle Laguerre.
Okay, there it is, guys. That's how you support Marielle. Learn more from her. Thank you very much. See everybody saying thank yous in here. I think it was exceptional, and I'm glad the connection worked. Like now, your camera is crisper than mine now.
Oh my gosh, I was sweating bullets because I was like, I just don't want this to cut out halfway through. So I'm glad that it worked.
Oh man, it's crystal clear. It's crystal
good.
Clear.
Finally,
yeah, lighting is good. Sounds good. You're good. You're good. All right, good stuff. All right, everybody, say goodbye to Marielle. There she is. Make sure that you hit that checklist, guys. All right. Last but not least, there he is. Nick, I'm ready for this one because there was one note that I circled that I wanted to come back to you on. Earlier, you talked about there are 3 things that people do online. The third was they show their ass. And I'm just curious, were you saying that they literally show their ass? Is it literally they show their ass, or is it figure of speech?
They act a fool, man. They act a fool. I know you have a global audience. Excuse me.
Yeah, I know.
They act very immature online.
There you go. All right, cool. Everyone's I know what we're talking about. All right, so now, what do you think, man? The number one issue that people have right now with their brand building?
The number one issue is that they don't know who they are. You have to understand who you are. You have to understand what you want to be known for and how you want to make people feel. The biggest problem that I see with all of my clients is, and this is not your fault, because Many remarkable people are great at many different things. Well, Nick, I'm an executive, but, I have an interest in coaching, but, I want to be an author, but I enjoy speaking and I want to get paid speaking engagements. But that's all great, right? That's all great. But you have to have one thing. Choose one brand thing you want to be known for, right? Then wrap everything else around that. Yes, can you be, a legal advisor or a business consultant and still be a public speaker? Yes. Can you do that and still offer a coaching program? Yes. Can you still, another one is, Nick, I work a job. How do I elevate myself? Because people are out here. I'm connected to my boss. I'm connected to my coworkers. I don't want to get fired on my day off. So if I post something, people are going to think that I'm looking for a job. Well, what you have to do is, first of all, if it's that way, even if you have to give your boss some heads up, say, hey, I'm doing something, I'm trying something, I'm doing professional development, right? I want to start talking about my insights, but you give a little shout out to your employer. The thing is, what do you want to be known for? If human resources is your thing, let human resource be your thing. But then weave in the other facets of you. It's an 80-20 rule, 80% insights, 20% feeling. But it's that 20% you'll find that people will connect to and like the most. I learned this in politics. You'll find a political candidate. They'll be talking about the issues, and I'm going to be tough on this, and I'm going to be doing that, and I'm going to be doing this. But when they post an image of their family, goes through the roof, right? That's why family is so important in politics. It's understanding that feeling is going to carry a lot of the connectivity tissue as it relates to people. Try building around your brand, because that's what you are doing. You're building a tribe of people who are passionate about you. But in order to do that, they got to understand, number one, what do you do? And then number two, you have to direct them into feeling, right? You have to be the person that directs them. Far too often, we give people complete authority and ownership of our brand. Stop doing that. Please stop, right? Take ownership of your brand. You have the ability to tell people what to feel about you. Show your experience through visible credibility. Stop being so brand humble, right? Humility is all well and good. But damn it, there's nothing wrong with you saying how great you are and showing people and showing what it is that you know in your head. That is the way now that you are going to get noticed online. So, by all means, please say something. I beg of thee, open up your mouth, talk about how great you are. Please and thank you.
There's always a moment. There's always a moment in these Better with Pauls, right? Because I watch it back on LinkedIn and I watch it back on Facebook. And there's always one moment, every session, where I call it the pass the collection plate moment, where you see the hand claps and the hearts going, and people are like, "What's his Cash App?" That's what you know. It's like, "What's Nick's Cash App?" that was it. That was the moment right there. That was it.
But Paul, man, I'm serious about this, man, because the thing about remarkable people is that, like, my sister said it best. Well, I'm gonna let the work speak for myself, man. She said, I need to hashtag work can't speak, man. Yeah, it can't. Like, literally, don't assume somebody is watching you and be like, you know what? You've done a great job. You've worked hard. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. No, many people don't even know you exist until you show up and pop up. I've had so many people, as soon as they start talking, because they're great, and people know BS, Paul, and they know people that know what they're talking about. Like, literally. Right. I've had so many people who I've just given them some direction and said, okay, this is what you do. The minute they start talking, their views go up. They've never slid in the DMs before. They're like, what is the slide in the DMs you speak of, Nick? Right? Tell me about the DMs, Nick. Right? But then you can't stop them from being in DM. I mean, they're just kind of like, it's a thing, but you have to build your social media muscle. It's like when you go in a workout, right? You don't try to do the most all at once. You build into it, right? You just it's just building into it. But
Right.
say something, like
You gotta
literally.
say something. What I love too is, and you're also saying, and say it consistently, right? That's
Consistently.
very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine used to, a couple of years ago, used to say, Paul, you know, you're the best at humble bragging, right? He's like, you're the humble bragger. Like, you'll just be like, right. And I'll say something, but it's to your point, is that because you have, in this day and age, you have to, because if you're not speaking about yourself, no one else is going to speak about you.
Really.
Yeah.
Or you're waiting for somebody. You're like, will you please speak about me? All right. Okay. No, the funniest thing, Paul, is I'll have somebody be like, well, Nick, I desire to be a speaker, but they're so quiet online. I'm like, brother, you got a stage every single day. Speak, say something.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the people that are doing these conferences and that are selecting these speakers, they're out here online and they're looking for people, but you have to be hashtagable. You have to have the right keywords. You have to have your profile built so you can be found. Yeah. And that's a part of the technical piece that I think so many people just forget about, but you can't forget about it, because it's understanding how all of this stuff works in collaboration these days. And many people who were face to face at one time and went to this networking event just to pass out some business cards that stays on a desk, right? They're new to this. And so it's understanding that in order to do this effectively, the first thing here is you got to understand what you want to be known for.
Right. That's it. It's a new world. What do you want to know? One brand thing, right?
One brand thing. That's it.
All right. So Nick, man, what can we, I know there's a lot of people that are like, Nick, how do we reach out to you? How can we reach out to you? What's something that we could do to support you?
So the one thing you can do to support me is to support yourself. Like literally educate yourself, learn. I have no problem helping you. If you want to reach me, all you got to do is shoot me a DM. Put brand me in the DM. I'll do the rest. I will do the heavy lifting for you, right? Just shoot me a DM. If you want to go to my website, it's Brandpreneur. I do it UER because it's all about you. It's not because I don't know how to spell. Yes, I know it's spelled incorrectly. It's on purpose. It's all about you. If you spelled it wrong, you spelled it right, right? But you can go to Brandpreneur monthly. I host a monthly personal branding cohort where I take around anywhere between 10 to 30 people from zero to brand. Like literally, this is not words and workbooks. This is actually hands-on training. You work one-on-one with me, you work with my team, and you'll work amongst your peer group to learn how to create content online, shooting videos. You'll do your first LinkedIn video. I'll have you doing Instagram lives and Facebook lives. I'll have you so uncomfortable, but it's being uncomfortable where you grow. So within this 4-week time span, you'll even create your own landing page based on your name, brand you. Because when somebody Googles you, they need to be able to find the accurate version of you, not the version that somebody else put out there, not the version that your employer put out there, not the version that press release from 3 years ago when your hair was completely different or you were a lot thinner, not that version of you. We need to understand who you are, and you need to be the one to craft that narrative. Oftentimes, people just don't know how to do this stuff because, you know, it can be confusing. 4 weeks, your brand. It's called Brand Line. So brandpreneur.com/brand line to apply. I do them every month. I'd love to work with you.
Nick, I didn't get the brand line in there, but is that correct right there?
Yep, you spelled it wrong, so you spelled it right. You spelled it wrong, so you spelled it right. No, it's right. No, it's right.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, hold on a second. All right, good stuff, Nick. I'm appreciative that you said yes to this. I'm appreciative that we got a chance to do something together. I'm appreciative of what we do in the future. So, man, thank you.
Absolutely. I can't say no to another brother with bald head, and a goatee.
There you
I
go.
would be wrong if I did that.
There you go. And I cut mine before. I should have let it in a little.
You got the shadow going. I see. Right. But no,
all right.
Anything.
There goes my man Nick Nelson right there, brandpreneur. Make sure you slide into that DM right there. What I love about this show is that we're teaching everybody how to slide into the DMs. Slide into the DMs. All right. Temperature check right before we close out. How was the panel? I will tell you this. I'm so happy that we switched up the idea. Literally, it was about 4 hours before we went live. We were going to talk about something completely different. This was what came on my heart to speak about. I reached out to these 4 panelists. It shows you actually how much they are how much of a subject matter expert that the panelists are, because they didn't have to prep. They didn't have to see, like exactly tell me, Paul, every single question that you're going to ask. Like, they came on ready and they threw it down because they're subject matter experts. I think that's also something that I'll just echo from what I heard, because I like to do little quick recaps. Is that what I heard the panel really saying is that, you've got to have this one thing, at least one thing that you are phenomenal at, or at least you're marching towards being phenomenal at. And then you need to convey that. You need to show that, right? You need to make sure that you are creating content that shows people that you are so good. And this connects actually to one of my favorite books of all time by Cal Newport. The book is called So Good They Can't Ignore You. So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport, one of my favorite books. And essentially what Cal is saying is exactly what the panel is saying here, is that when you become so good at something, no one will be able to ignore you, right? When you're so good at something, no one will be able to ignore you. And that will give you 3 things in life. That's going to give you more autonomy to use your time the way that you want to use your time. Secondly, it's going to give you more connections and more network, right, than you've ever had before. And that gives you options. And then third is it's going to give you wealth. If you pinpoint any subject matter expert in the world, right? If you take any category in the world, and you show me the top 1, 2, 3 people in that category, you're going to be seeing someone who has incredible autonomy, incredible networking connections, and incredible wealth, right? You're going to see that. So good they can't ignore you. Make sure you're doing that. I see that. Like Sherry said, the topic was right on time. I feel good about that. I really feel good about that. All right. So in closing, guys, remember a couple things here. Remember to get on this. I'll be sending out the newsletter recap of this episode next week, but you're going to get last week's episode tomorrow, right? Because I'm running a bit, I run like a week behind because I put these together myself, right? So make sure that you're on this for that. Make sure also that if you're thinking about Jamaica, make sure that you get on the list for Jamaica, right? And then for the first time for me, right, I have a mastermind going on. I've got something, right? Normally I don't have anything, but now I have something. This is specifically for someone, if you're interested in launching a business, right? So you have an idea, you want to launch your business, or maybe you have already launched your business and you want to increase the revenue of the business, the net income, you're trying to expand the team, etc. There's a growth group. And then third, there's a thought leader group for those who want to look at their brand as a thought leader and to figure out how they can emerge as a thought leader. These are the 3 groups. And the 4th group I've opened up is just a one-on-one or one-on-many, because a lot of people have reached out to say, hey, Paul, I have a small business, 2, 3 people. How can you work with my entire company? It's all here. Make sure that you apply as well, because there's a cap on some of the groups. And I opened up that just yesterday. So that is the tribes, PCB Tribe Mastermind. Okay. That's all I got to say, guys. That's all I got to say. Let me just check real quick. Let me just check. I see Joy saying she's good, right? How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling real quick? Rose saying that she's good. Okay. My sis holding it down. I see you in the crib. You're feeling good? All right. All right. There you go. Sade. Yep. Come on and join me. Uh-oh. Kavan said, he spelled something wrong. Kavan is confirmed he's going to be hosting at least one of the panel discussions in Jamaica. So this is good. Demi, right? Kemi, Ricardo. All right. I see you guys. Make sure temperature. This is all I need to see, that the temperature check looks like this. Okay. So make sure you show up on Friday, guys. This Friday will be the next Better with Paul. It's a very special, and should I say, I don't want to give too much away, but it will be the most special Friday session of Better with Paul that we've done in the last 4 months. So that's all I can give away there. So make sure that you're joining us. All right, guys, I'm out. I will see you. You take care, and I will see you on Friday.